Welcome to the BioGirl Health Show with Carol Newman. Do you want the energy and vitality you need to fully enjoy your life and all of its possibilities? Carol Newman can help teach you how to nourish your body with healthy organic living, keeping you beautiful inside and out. And now, here's your host.
Hi, I'm your host, Kimberly Henry, and I'm here with Carol Newman. Today, we'll be talking with Carol and a special return guest about making the transition to gluten-free eating. Before Carol joins us, just a reminder that if you have questions or comments for Carol during the show or anytime, you can send your questions on Twitter using our hashtag, BioGirlHealth. Carol, how are you today?
I'm well, and how are you, Kimberly?
Fantastic and feeling really good. I had a little bit of a sniffle last time we talked. It's all gone.
But you did perfectly, and we just got slammed with snow, and thankfully I had someone plow me out in case I needed to go somewhere, so I'm grateful for that. Hopefully spring's around the corner. I can't wait until the trees start budding. I love the signs of spring.
Someone reminded me this morning that there's just 19 days. 19 days till spring.
Goody. Goody. That sounds great.
Ready. Now, Carol, we have a great topic, and you brought back one of our previous guests to share with us this morning. Would you like to introduce Michelle?
Yeah, so Michelle Ward, actually, the show that she was on previously on the BioGirl Health Show was thriving on a gluten-free diet, and it was concerning her daughter Hannah, the health issues relating to gluten. So welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Michelle.
Good to have you on again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the last time. I'm looking forward to today.
I'm looking forward to how much we're going to learn from you because, one of the drawbacks or the obstacles for me to a gluten-free diet is just what is it all about and what do I do and where do I start? So I'm hoping you're going to share some of that information with us.
Well, I will do my best.
Excellent. Well, you told us last time, can you just refresh us on why you got into the gluten-free lifestyle and a little bit about your daughter and how it's been for you?
Certainly. Well, it's been about 2 years, and since Hannah's been little, she's 15 now. She just celebrated her birthday on the 20th of February. So she's been struggling with stomach aches since she's been, old enough to tell me, Mommy, my tummy hurts. So I would take her to the doctors. Long story short, finally, after several visits to the pediatrician, we went to the gastroenterologist. The gastroenterologist ran some blood tests, and through a number of blood tests and things like that, we discovered that she did not show positive for like celiac disease or gluten intolerance, but he cautioned me that you can sometimes have a false negative. So he said that because of the symptoms that she was presenting and the fact that she had elevated thyroid hormones, or the thyroid, what do they call those, antibodies, that he felt that it would be prudent for her to try and eliminate gluten. And so that's what we did.
And how was it making that transition? Where did you go for help, and how different is your diet today than it was then?
It was a very challenging transition. The local library, the World Wide Web, and then, believe it or not, they actually have blogs that are like support groups, if you will. And the website, the world, Google, you just Google gluten-free, from, gluten-free help for moms or there's just a number of them. And like I said, the local library. Our diet is much different today. It really calls you out on the mat to be creative, because we do rely on wheat more than what I even realized that we did. And it's in so much. And it's not just the wheat, it's the gluten. So it just caused us to rethink everything.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I wanted to differentiate. What is the difference between the wheat and the gluten?
The difference between wheat and gluten, the wheat berry, the grain, it's also known as einkorn, That's the ancient grain, and it is, what it actually means in German is single grain. It does not contain gluten in its pure form. Today we have genetically modified, if you will, by crossbreeding, the wheat berry with other grains, and in this case, typically what we're crossbreeding our grain or our wheat with today is goat grass. That causes a reaction and leads to gluten, or adds to adding gluten genes. And so I know that sounds like foreign language, but basically it's the crossbreeding that causes the wheat or the wheat products to have gluten in them. Because the actual wheat berry, if you take the einkorn and you grind it in a food mill and make things out of it, it does not contain gluten.
Okay, so the gluten comes, I just want to kind of re-summarize what you just said to make sure I understand it and anybody listening understands. So the gluten comes from the cross-breeding process of the einkorn with goat grass, if you will, or whatever else. And it's not necessarily an inherent part of the grain.
No, actually, it is the actual wheat einkorn. The ancient grain einkorn has it actually has 14 chromosomes. And so when you crossbreed it, you're adding chromosomes.
Oh, wow.
And then today's wheat, or the product that we make, our breads and baked goods out of, has 42 chromosomes.
Wow.
And studies are finding that it is the chemically I can't think of the word I want to use. Let's just say perverting the actual wholesomeness of the wheat. It is that studies are finding, and they're linking to the epidemic proportions of obesity and diabetes.
That is fascinating, and I'm sure it would be a really interesting conversation to delve into why they're doing that crossbreeding and how we got to where we are today, but I know we don't have a lot of time for that.
Well, I can say one thing. Part of the manipulation was to increase yield per acre. That was their main concern to begin with. But, of course, through years of doing that, it made the insects and such more resistant. So in the long run, the yield is less than it was originally when in the beginning they did it. It did increase the yield, but now they're finding that it's decreasing the yield. So it's coming back to haunt them.
Wow. And like I said, that's probably a whole nother conversation we can have, but it's such a fascinating thing that we do to our food sources, the unintended consequences, right?
Yes, absolutely. Michelle, I was wondering, have you heard or read the New York Times bestseller Wheat Belly?
Yes, Carol, I have.
And what did you find out in reading the book?
Well, I found out some of the facts that I shared with you about the einkorn and in its original form and the chromosome change. I also, the author, he is a cardiologist, and he himself had problems with severe reaction to wheat products, and that's what inspired him to write this book. He kind of made himself a human guinea pig, if you will. The book it's chock full of wonderful facts that help you to understand, and like you were saying about the original reason why we started crossbreeding and the ill effects, and then how it's almost like a generational curse, if you will, because each generation who's kind of grown up on this, not, unknowing. They have children, and then their children, and then their children's children, and it seems like each generation is just a little more sensitive and develops problems from this. There's diets in this book. I mean, diets like recipes, if you will, nutritional information. There's resources on, where to obtain the einkorn, so that if you are so inclined to have not necessarily have to buy the pre-made breads from the mixes, because that can be very costly. You can grind your own wheat that does not have the glutamine in it and make your bread that way.
Michelle, have you tried the einkorn, and does it taste the same as wheat?
I've not tried the einkorn. I myself, I buy bread that is sprouted and is not, does not have any wheat in it. And I've had the bread that is sprouted. Before Hannah ever became gluten intolerant, or we were aware of it, I used to sprout our grains. And so I don't have a mill, and you can't use a coffee grinder, like a specific coffee grinder just like you do maybe for flaxseed. So I never had a way to grind my own wheat. Mm-hmm. But I understand it's delicious. It's very satisfying.
It is. It's very chewy. I actually have made bread with it. It's very good. Very, very good.
I would love to try that.
It sounds like this book is just chock full of information, and if any of our listeners are interested, there'll be a link at the end of the show notes with a resource for the book.
Yeah. And again, that was Wheat Belly, right? The title of the book, Wheat Belly, and that's by William Davis.
That's correct.
I'm going to look that up. I'm interested.
The other thing,
it's well worth the money I'm one of these that like to dog ear my books and write in the margins and underline, highlight, and I consume my books. So when I've read it, I've read it. There's no question, because the binding is broken, and the pages have been touched, and so when it's something like that, I have to own it. And it's been a wealth of information.
I'm with you about the dog ears on the book. I'm the same way. I crack that binding when I get a book. That binding's cracked on it.
I love that sound. It's amazing.
So one would think that if you're eating a gluten-free diet, that and I have to admit that I am not a gluten-free eater, but I am curious about it. I've heard so many good results. So what does that look like?
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, what does that look like for me? If I'm used to eating bread and pizza and pasta. How does that change my life?
It doesn't change your life. They have those items available that are gluten free. I would say a word of caution though, because my mom, who was not diagnosed with a gluten intolerance or gluten sensitivity, she was inspired by my daughter Hannah, because my mom's always had, problems with her GI tract. And so she decided that she was going to go gun ho. And they made everything. My stepdad is a wonderful cook and baker. And so he was like treating her like she was just the Queen of Sheba, baking and making. And so you can have all of those things. But if you don't if you're not noticing, like he gives the symptoms within the content of the book, things to look for, what he was experiencing, things that he's talked with his patients and other people who share his issues with the gluten, and in the wheat that has the gluten in it. But if you're not, you don't have a problem, the studies are finding that it can be more harmful than good.
Ah, that's good to know. That's really good information to get out there, that it's not necessarily for everyone.
No. I think everything that you read that has been authored by is sound. I'm not saying that if you go and, buy magic books or something, but I'm when you're